What's up? What's up? Check it out. Today, I want to talk to you about what has landed me right here. So, everybody knows, or a lot of people know, that I've been in business for myself for quite a while, and not really for myself. I worked for Drop Jaw for a while. I did the Pilgreen wheels thing with my younger brother. I bought Pilgreen wheels, or I acquired Pilgreen wheels in 2014, and I ran it up until April of this year. And in April of this year, I shut everything down. I shut all the retail down. And I want to tell you about the events leading up to that. So in November 2016, I had to have back surgery on my L4, L5 had protruded over into my nerve canal. So it was sending sharp pains all the way down to my feet. At the time, we were moving about 500 tires a week from LKQ, and I was slinging a lot of those tires, and I've been slinging tires since I was probably 18, 19 years old. So I found out I have to have back surgery. I have back surgery in November. My doctor tells me, hey, look, if you don't stop throwing tires and wheels every day, then you're going to be a repeat customer of mine. And that is absolutely not what I wanted to be after the pain I went through for that first surgery. So, and not so much the surgery painful, but the pre-surgery where it was shooting down my leg, that was pretty crucial. Like, that's some hard pain. Anybody that's been through that understands what I'm saying. It makes you feel like you're helpless. And my mom used to tell me this, or my mom has told me this through the past couple of years. Sometimes God puts you on your back, so the only place you have to look is up. And I feel totally confident in saying that this was the point in my life where God said, hey, I'm putting you down. It's time for you to look at me. It's time for you to see the bigger picture. So during my back surgery recovery, it was about 6 weeks or so from the middle of November until January 1st. January 1st, 2017 is when I was released to go back to work. And so through that time, I read a bunch of books on business, and I read a lot of. I love the Shark Tank. I love watching that show. So I read a lot of books from those guys, O'Leary and Damon John and Mark Cuban. So what I learned through the back surgery time was that I was putting all my other businesses before I put my family, and that was terrible. You have to put your family first. That's your foundation. It's like building a house. If you build a house with no foundation, it's going to crumble the first time the wind comes by. So, real similar situation if you use that analogy in life. If you don't have a good foundation, then your life's going to just completely go into shambles regardless of what kind of money you have, if you're not putting that money or that time or that effort into your family. So, through the back surgery, I read a lot about that, and then I went back to work at the comic book store. I owned a couple of comic book stores with a partner, and I went there because I felt like that it would be less strenuous and I wouldn't have to worry so much about picking up tires every day. And I left Heidi, my wife, to run the wheel and tire store, and they did an excellent job. Her and the employees I had at the time, they're very stand-up people. They did a lot of stuff that they didn't have to do through the time of my sickness. So that brings me up to April 1st, 2017, which is actually my birthday. It was my 41st birthday, and I was working at the comic book store during an event they had, cooking hot dogs. Throughout the day, I just didn't feel really good, and by the time I got back I had to go get my car from the wheel shop that afternoon about 5:30, and by the time I get back there, I feel horrible. I ended up throwing up, and I ended up throwing up blood. And for those of you that watched my last video, von Willebrand's disease, it doesn't, when you throw up blood, it's kind of a big red flag. You got to go. And so I had to go to the emergency room to find out what was going on, and I found out I didn't find out at the time. I went to the emergency room at around 5:30 or 6 o'clock. And this is kind of a stupid part on me, but I'll tell you my stupid here so you'll understand where I'm coming from. At around 9:30 or 9:30, I walked out of the emergency room. I had an IV in my arm. I pulled it out, and to me, they weren't treating it serious. And I said, you know what? I could deal with this tomorrow. That night, and this is another stupid thing, but I'll tell you the truth here. That night, the Tar Heels were playing in the semifinals of the NCAA tournament, and I'm a Tar Heel fan, and I'm thinking, you know what? I can go home, watch this, go to sleep, wake up first thing in the morning, get back to the emergency room, and they'll be able to see me a lot quicker. Well, that wasn't the case. I ended up coming home, and Heidi and I sat in the garage for about 30 or 40 minutes watching the game, and I told her, I said, I got to go in. I don't feel good. So I went inside, I laid down, and I'm just trying to sleep this thing off. And about 2 o'clock in the morning, I had to go to the bathroom. So after I got done peeing, I turned around, and as I was turning around, I just felt like I lost all composure, just blacked out, and I fell. And when I fell, the right side of my head hit the bathtub in Heidi's bathroom. So she come running in there to get me out of, or to help me get out of the bathtub. And I stand up, and the minute I stand up, she said my eyes rolled in the back of my head, and I just completely passed out backwards. And of course, she had to call the rescue squad to come get me. So the next thing I remember is waking up with a bunch of dudes trying to get me out of a bathroom, about 335, 340 pounds at the time. And these cats were trying to get me out to the ambulance so they can get me to the emergency room. Well, the next thing I remember after that was waking up in the MICU, the medical ICU unit, where I stayed at for a couple of days. Come to find out, I had a AVM, which is basically the way they explain it in layman terms is a skin tag inside of your stomach that had started bleeding, and of course with my disorder that doesn't stop bleeding, that just continues to bleed until you get some kind of medicine or some kind of treatment for that. So after that stint at the hospital, I had a 30-day headache. I lost all motion in my left ankle, from my left ankle down. I couldn't wiggle my big toe. I had to gain all of that back. I wore a really big brace thing throughout the first 6 or 8 weeks after the surgery. I sprained my ankle while trying to recover by falling in the ditch in front of my house, which is probably the worst injury I had throughout the whole thing that lingers with me today. Still have problems with my left ankle from that sprain, but I didn't have any way of correcting my fall. So when I fell, it just completely twisted over. I thought I broke it, but they told me it was just a major sprain. So all of this leads me to tell you that sometimes the lessons of life are the best blessings in life. Sometimes you have to look through the lessons to see the blessing. Now, I'm telling my story because I want people to be able to get in front of that. Get in front of it, spend some time in the Word of God, spend some time in your faith, making sure that you are right with God, make sure you're right with your life, make sure you spend your days doing the things that you should do to better yourself and the people around you. 2 biggest commandments: love me as God and your only God, and love everybody else as you would love yourself and as a neighbor. Those things stick with me. I've been reading the Bible a little over a year now, and by far am I any kind of saint or claiming to be any kind of saint. What I am claiming to be is somebody that is knowledging himself more on the Bible, and the more in tune with the Bible I get, the more God is prevalent in my life. I mean, He shows up. He shows me things. Open your eyes, pay attention. When He shows you some things, sometimes you're like, man, how did that happen? Like, that was crazy. And then sometimes you look back 2 weeks later and you're like, there's no way that should have worked out like it did, but it did. So the message that I'm giving today is, through everything that happened with me, and what landed me at the spot I'm at, which is exactly where I think I should be, just understand that, get in touch with the Word. Don't be too late, because in Malachi chapter 2 verse 2 it says, if you do not listen and if you do not resolve to honor my name, I will send a curse on you, and I will curse your blessings. Yes, I have already cursed them because you have not resolved to honor me. So honor God, read the book, make sure you understand the things that are being said in there, and the ways that you become a better person, a better Christian, a better person of faith, and the way you can walk in a positive light. There's no reason to be a victim or to claim excuses for everything. The only thing we can do is persevere past it and continue going down a positive path. On that note, I will leave you for the day. Stay positive, real life testimony, because everybody has a story. Peace.